Sure. Ready?
Yeah.
Good evening. This is the Hudson Housing Trust Fund Advisory Committee, and we are calling the meeting to order, and it is 5:40 p.m.
Thanks. I'm gonna take a roll call. Jeff Dodson,
Here?
Becca Wolf. Here. Nick Zactor.
Here.
Lucia Berlin. Absent. Tom DiPietro. Absent. And Ally Edwards. Absent. Okay, so what we're gonna do, you guys have the agenda in front of you. We'll do show you the CDBG before and after pictures. We'll move the resolution to the end when Tom's here, and then we can move into new business, which is really this budget workshop. So we're just gonna go through it, talk over each section, and kind of hopefully walk away with some kind of consensus. Okay, so first thing, I'm just gonna show a couple pictures if I can get up on the screen. So to give you some before and after pictures of our CDBG housing rehab grant.
Someone asked for that too, didn't they? Or-
Yeah.
Good.
I don't have all of them, but these are some of the ones I had for now. Okay. So we did 8 units total. I'm just going to show you from a couple of them. And of course, the most important work is usually the least sexy pictures. Let's see. So here, you can see that like the house had a lot of kind of entrances and exits, like the stairs and the steps were faded, pretty old roof, and then a lot of exposed walls. They didn't have finished walls and ceilings, and then there's a lot of the electrical amps were like half of the voltage that you typically have, so that you can have risk of fire. So after we replaced all the windows and doors, new entrance and exit at the back, new roof, and got the plumbing and the electrical all like upgraded, and also we were able to get the walls plastered and everything covered. That was a good project.
It's very nice.
Next one was a 2-family house that had pretty significant damage from leaking roof. So a lot of the ceilings were crumbled and walls, a lot of crumbled plaster. After we were able to, a lot of asbestos too. So the big issue was getting the roof replaced, not the asbestos.
Oh.
And then was able, after we took care of like that and take care of all the mold, like rod stuff on the inside, repair all of the ceilings and walls, new windows, energy efficient, and doors. That's another photo, and also the structural repairs. So the house was also, some of the joists in the basement were pretty soft.
Okay.
And so because of all of the moisture, so we're replacing the structural parts of the house won't collapse. And then here's the before and after the bathroom.
Wow.
Yeah, last one, you were great. Redoing all that. And then here's another, I don't have a lot of before pictures, but very similar issues with old leaky roof, a lot of molds, and then disrepair wall moisture inside. Let's see. Here's after example of the bathrooms. Yeah. And this was a house too, where a lot of family members are having health issues that we think were related to mold. And a lot of heating upgrades to new boiler and energy efficiency and yeah. And so some of the successes of it was definitely just like the actual work of being able to get all the projects done, stabilizing a lot of like the foundation, electrical work. I think some of the potential fires that could happen in the future. And we love the health hazards, asbestos, mold, etc. And we finished everything on time. But I think the challenges for that moving forward, we had a lot of hard funding contractors, especially when it's, government programs are not most attractive. Our budget, I think, was too low. And part of the issue is we'd seen original When we first went into houses, between the time of that and then the time the actual project started, the projects, like so many more needs evolved. And then the more we got into something, the more we found there's more stuff that had to happen. So we've gone in hoping to do more projects, and then all of the budgets just kind of kept increasing. But I think the good news is that we're leaving the houses being like, okay, like these are safe and good condition.
Can you remind us, are there requirements that the people are like staying in the house,
Mhm.
et cetera? Like what's the?
Yeah, so there's like a UCC agreement filed on the property, so it goes with like recorder at the county. And basically the homeowner has to stay in the house or sell it or pass it on to someone who's at 80% of their income or below, and if they don't, each year they have to repay the loan
Mhm.
or the funds. And it's like a decreasing amount, so 20% is forgiven each year. So, yeah. So yeah, I think those are some photos, and we're able, the timing was too short to like apply this round. It was just back to back when we finished this one and the new one, but there's some other programs that are out there, so we're looking at what else could do.
How long did that work take to get done? I mean, was it like a couple of years project, a year project?
So from the time that the actual contracting work began
Yes.
until they were finished. So we had 5 projects. We began the first one like right around Christmas, and then we wrapped up the last one in end of May.
Okay,
That's really,
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also like the timing was kind of unfortunate in that we had hoped to start the contractor work in the last like summer 2023. But
Okay,
because we had so much trouble finding contractors, we didn't actually get to start the work until Christmas, and then it's just worse to do stuff over, doing roofing over winter,
right.
and that work. And I think the other thing is that it took a while. Like between the time we applied for the grant in 2021, the
Mhm.
time we received it a year later, things were slow because of COVID then.
Right.
And then by the time it took a year to get all the like contractors and stuff in place, I think it was a pretty big window between applying and receiving it, which I think is just so much things change for people. But I think like next time that wouldn't happen. Number one, because the state's moving faster with COVID being gone, but also now we have so many things. So for example, like every house has to have an environmental review done with all these different steps. I have all the templates made now. I have all the maps made, like stuff like that. Like,
Right.
it can just go a lot faster. And I know contractors like to put on a list to call and everything. So I think from moving forward, we'll be able to move a lot quicker. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the budget workshop part. And Tom can join when he gets here. So for those of us online, I'll share my screen. You guys can follow along. We're basically just going to work through each section and just kind of talk about each part. I'm going to write notes from any of your comments. Today, we don't need to vote or agree on anything. Today is just for putting your thoughts, ideas, discussion, and then the hope would be that in August we would vote. Okay, so let me just get my screen share. So just beginning, part A is showing you what we have right now. So the, how we began the year, about 200,000, the CD is at 250,000. That chargeback is just because we pay my salary a quarter later. So that totally began the year is about 440,000. And then just showing you what we've already spent to date. Mostly Hudson Ridge for the BG salary, one quarter of my salary. And then our expected revenue, we've already received some of it, the city's donation. We didn't get the money from last year, so this year we got 60,000. That was the 2023 and 2024 donation. Plus, we've gotten about $5,000 of interest so far from the CD. And
it says.
It's great. Wow, man. I was reading and I was like, whoa, that's excellent.
yeah,
Anticipated net value. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
so
it's very good.
thank you, Ryan Wallace, for that suggestion.
Yeah.
And then, Beth has got about 100,000 more for the year, mostly on salary and fringe. So that would leave us with around 300,000 at the end of the year.
I had a question, was, what did you say the HCBK transfer?
Yeah, so part of our budget, we give $10,000 to them to cover audit fees, like bookkeeping.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll probably do that this month or so.
So it was about the cost didn't go up, it's the same. Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
That's good.
I think our audit with the big thing is the audit with them, and it's actually getting a little bit less expensive, I think each year, because now the auditors are used to us.
Before it was kind of a setup.
Yeah, and I think HCP has done a lot of work.
Right.
Sarah and like now Logan have just kind of cleaning up a lot of.
Oh, and it was probably hourly as well, right? Or at least to some degrees in hourly rates.
Yeah, Sarah Black and I had calculated out like everything their HCP was spending, and we came to about 10,000, so.
No, I was talking about in reference to the cleanup.
The clean.
Yeah, because it was more hours. It probably-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then, any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. So then, looking at our 2024 spending, broke it down just a little, the next table is broken down in more detail, so you can see, salary, fringe, which is, health insurance, pension, all that stuff.
Right.
Software, Hudson Roots was the 50,000, and then the CDBG, and then just mostly the rest of it's salary and fringe, so that would leave, by the end of the year, about 189,000. So just like, I think y'all know this, but the seed funding from the grant began, the idea was gonna like spend down the seed funding and that over time build up other revenue. And we're kind of getting close to like the bottom of that V, which has been expected all along, that 2024 through like 2026 would be probably some of the, leaner balances.
Right.
Until we get more like public revenue and, private funding up. So it's like, it makes sense that that's where we're going. So then part B, that's showing how we would begin 2025 would be 50, about that roughly 300,000.
Here's a weird question.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to try to add somebody to our board who's essentially like part of the philanthropy world of Hudson, whatever that world is? Like person who goes to all the things that the events that people have, like different fundraisery type, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
People who do that.
Yeah.
Like, so that we could just essentially establish this as like one of the charities in Hudson.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think especially, finding someone who's got like some marketing skills, because that's just one of the areas that not my favorite or my strength in terms of the marketing. And so, yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. Try and find other board members in that. Yeah.
Like, I wonder even if somebody who,
It was like you were about to say. something.
No, I was yawning, not because of the content, just because of the time of day.
Oh.
Just holding it in.
yeah, anyway, yeah. Okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like at the moment.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm saying that's not it.
right. You gotta have that.
Yeah, so
And,
I just learned of that, so it's very interesting.
mhm.
I'm sorry, I was saying, it's like the Rolling Grocer.
Uh,
They have that kind of setup.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot, as in, like, the more I learn about nonprofit boards, it's like, you gotta have a big mixed experience.
Sure.
To be successful.
Agreed.
I think it's a good suggestion,
Well,
not a weird idea.
No, It wasn't
Not
weird at all.
weird.
Not weird at all.
Okay, so then the next part of the budget, I think there's like two categories. One that I think is pretty similar to what we did last year. So I think that's the easier part we discussed. And then the next part is like the more up for discussion part of the budget. So under B, that table at the bottom of page 1, scroll down. You folks, these are things that I think are up for discussion right now, but similar to what we did this year, so that would be the estimated salary and fringe of fringe, the admin for HCPI. Suggested we can discuss it, like circle is like, this is up for discussion, that small budget line, we'll talk about that on the next page, and then Hudson Roofs. I think it's been really, really effective, especially the moment right now. I think honestly, every day I'm hearing 2 or 3 people who their rents are going up or their landlord wants their apartment back. I think it's good to continue that, but
Can I ask a question about that? 'Cause I kind of feel like we have to get a sense of, what are some of the outcomes of people receiving support, like, just so that we know, like, because, so I was looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, $50,000, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding nihilistic or something,
Mhm.
but, or like, maybe this is a better way to put it. Is it considered like, okay, we're doing, oh, because it's emergency rental support for the
Yeah.
most part, right?
yeah,
So it's like, okay, so if somebody is staying in an apartment for another month and then they're getting kicked out, like how, I guess basically I'm curious, how many times is that happening?
yeah. So.
And I actually don't mean it to be like, and that would determine like how.
No, I got-
it goes
yeah.
forward with it, but I just like, yeah.
So we get the info from Thomas every month. And I can tell you that up until last fall, like the first couple of years, everyone who received funding was still in their same apartment. The past few months, there's been a couple more cases where the majority of them, they are still in their apartment, and most of the cases have been issues of someone had a medical thing come up, they couldn't pay their rent. That's the most common thing, or like hours been cut back. There have been a couple more cases in the past few months of, one of them was someone was gonna lose their apartment, but we, paid them, like helped them out for a month and they got another month out of it.
Mhm.
And then, that bought them a month, right? And then there's been like, out of everyone, there's only been one person who's received funds twice. Everyone else has been once. I mean, I can get like a little bit more of a breakdown of everything, but I would say in general, and like in general, as in like, I'm gonna ballpark 90% of people are still in the same apartment.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, it's good to know. I guess, that yeah, I just was curious about it, because I could see like also a way in which we could maybe want to start to think about, like, are there ways to use funds towards like ownership? Which I know that's like, which I don't even know what that
Yeah.
means at this point, because
Yeah.
obviously it's out of control,
Yeah.
like the market. But like, but if there's some like, what's a way that we could try to take some money and put it into something that would work towards creating the creation of new housing? That's what I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, this is just like ridiculous. This is just a ridiculous
Yeah.
question. But like, where are these condos that we need? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's kind of like a go-between
Mhm.
to, for some, I think there needs to be, to get to that home ownership step, we may need to do, invest in some type of financial literacy or education
Look,
to
yeah.
people with their budgeting. So that
Oh,
they
I
can
mean,
screw
there's
it.
that whole thing
Yeah,
totally of which I mean, I'm pretty sure that is like something that HHA has had like before you got here. Like, no, I mean, should have been doing, but didn't or haven't been. Is that kind of programs, and also housing resources was supposed to be doing that, but didn't. But I'm just trying to think outside of that box.
Yeah.
If there is anything outside of that box, like,
I think 2 things. One is that, so you're right, I think in a sense, like, we're not there yet. In terms of like, if you're going, there's development side, so it's kind of supply side, and then there's the like down payment assistance side, right? We're not there yet, the down payment side, because we don't have the housing yet. And I spoke with like the housing trust funds and like, I think it was was either the one in Great Barrington or the one in Montpelier, like Vermont. And they had a down payment program and they got rid of it because not enough people were using it. The other thing is they would clear us out. You know what I mean? Like,
All right,
like, and the other piece is that there is state funding for it. If we have the houses, we could apply to get down payment assistance, which is something we can't do down the road. So on the demand side, the like really unfortunate truth is we're just not there yet. On the supply side, I think we're a lot closer. And I think this is one of those things that it's kind of why we had that larger, like $100,000 project fee. I think some of the idea was if there was a project, we could put support with pre-development, we could put it in.
Well, like, what if there was some collaboration with like a community land trust or something like that?
Yeah,
Where there was potentially, new housing that could be accessed.
yeah, and I think, and also like HHA is looking at, a lot of different things with your properties and like, could there be homeownership stuff, and
Correct.
that's been discussion, and I think that we're not there yet, like the projects aren't ready enough yet for funding. And the other piece is I don't know, like, as we're getting close to the bottom of that V, I don't know if we have the balance to do a big amount of funding just yet, but I feel like in a year or two, we could be there and it might align with when the projects are ready. And I guess because we needed this 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I hate saying, like, we're not, like, the city's not, the city lowercase c, you know what I mean? Like, the general building development, all of the pieces aren't there yet.
and maybe my comment wasn't so much, even though it was an issue, but it doesn't have to be so much, financially based. That we can get someone to volunteer those efforts to prepare people for
Yeah.
that. As we work, like strategically, we can build that out
Yeah,
and maybe make the plan to maybe in 3 years, we get to put money in for purposes similar, since we have down payment assistance with the state and stuff like that. But in the meantime, educating and teaching financial literacy along the way to get people prepared to get a position
Mhm.
for that, even job readiness as well.
Yeah.
So we might be able to get some volunteerism to do that, maybe through the banks or,
Well, and Greylock is, I know they have those programs.
please give me that information. 'Cause,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, seriously, I wanna, that's because it's something I'm interested in doing. I know people that need help.
Mhm.
They
I know.
really just don't know.
Promise, I can't remember if it's working credit might be the name. And they're really great. They're nonprofits. They're not trying to sell anything.
Right.
And I think they've done a really good job with certain things. So I can also give you that contact info.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so bringing it back to that, like, the graph at the bottom of page 1. Any thoughts, feedback, things? Again, this is like a rough draft, but just initial thoughts before you move on to the next page.
It's a good breakdown.
Okay. How do you guys feel about the 50,000 for Hudson Race?
What did we do before?
50.
I mean, I know that it gets used, so
And
I
I
know
know,
it's helpful, so.
and I know that Promise has also been working really hard to get any other, they've been writing a lot of grants and trying to get funding.
Okay,
The county.
and we're only supplementing, we're not there, so, yeah,
Right, yeah. And like, again, like, this is Hudson specific.
okay.
Right? So,
Does the Hudson Roots program now exist at Promise, like it's part of Promise now, or it's like?
no, it's more of like, hello, the radio star has joined.
Huh?
The radio star has joined.
The radio star has joined.
Oh, I think,
After rising from the dead?
I would say it's more of like, Promise does rental assistance, emergency assistance in a lot of ways. And they have different funding streams, and all those funding streams have different roles, right? So
Oh.
you might, like, if they got funding from, I don't know, United Way, for example, like, that has different set of rules than ours does. So it's not like Hudson Roots is just like, it's being administered by Promise.
Okay, that's,
But it's really the housing trust fund, we're the ones who kind of meet the guidelines for it.
I want to speak.
You can.
So I guess then do we think do we need to give them more?
I'm sure they could use it.
But they obviously could use it. I mean, it's an amazing program that
That's why I said, I know,
runs out of money midway through the year, or at least like I guess I shouldn't say that, because I know that some of their rental programs run out of money. I don't know that Root specifically
Right.
does. But yeah, as more and more families are displaced in Hudson, the need is growing. So increasing funds seems reasonable, since there's not many other ways to support people in those situations.
do we need to do it in a lump sum, or does it matter, like, or does it need to be like? an
From the
obligation?
perspective of budgeting and the budget season, it starts in September, we would have to request the money.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get that part, but I'm saying, but we would disperse,
Oh.
disperse it half a year,
Yeah.
51 part of the year.
What we said, they liked getting it in one lump. We changed it this year partly because I think it just helps them to have it in their account, because they're using all these different funds and like leveraging them, and they don't know what's in the grants will arrive. And also, I think last week, HCK delayed disbursement of it because it was just having a hard time getting meetings and forums,
Okay,
and that held them up. The other thing we can think about too, which we can bring up at the end, is if we start, the CD expires in August, so another 8 months from then would be in March.
right,
Did that math right? So that would also be something to think about, like how much money do we want to have restricted, or, it's, again, I'm not gonna say let's hold up money.
No, it's not.
But just something to think about, like if we could end up making 10 grand, right, just from having it in this CD and other.
so how much more could we stand to give them?
I mean, I think that depends on some of the things on the next page.
Okay,
I'll highlight that as like,
okay,
if we could do more,
okay,
if we can just on that,
thank you.
yeah. So moving to the next page. Basically, what I just want to show you is like some of the different scenarios of if we were to get a lot of revenue, like a high spend revenue scenario, high revenue, low spend, low rev, et cetera. And just show you where we would end 2025 and where we begin 2026. I think realistically, like would always kind of go with the more conservative scenario. But just to give you guys a sense of what the numbers look like for those different scenarios. And by project spending, I basically mean that those other items that we've discussed that separate from, this was after we handle salary and HCPA admin and stuff like that. And then let me know when you want to move on to the next part, just when we could discuss the different ideas that everyone's provided.
Okay.
So it seems like we're pretty close to the low spend, high revenue as is. That way. Then reading this correctly,
So this is all for next year, so we don't,
Right.
so
Right.
this is
like
Yeah,
projected.
Projected.
the projected, yeah, I guess what
Yeah.
I'm saying is the projected, if there's no.
so yeah, so that 133 is where we'd end the year if we just did the things on the previous page. So if we just did salary, admin, Hudson News 50,000, contingency, and we didn't get revenue, we'd end at 133. So then showing like the other scenarios.
Promise, or anyone, I know the school districts had some statistics, but like statistics about displacement, or there's probably nothing that actually quantifies or gives an average of rent increases in Hudson over a year, right? We all hear it, we know it. I'm moving out of my house. Another prospective board member moved to Schenectady because she couldn't afford the rents here. People were being displaced.
Heard that too.
It's like, we all know it's happening. We don't have any statistics
Right,
behind it. But I feel like it kind of on this board, and as we quote the budget and talk about projects that can help people with that. That's kind of our mandate, right? Is that, oh, people are being displaced, people can't pay their rent, like, how can we help?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the direct correlation. It's frustrating that we don't have the statistics to
Yeah.
kind of clarify that,
Mhm.
but and I don't think there's any way of getting it really, right? It's all private.
I feel like we have county level, we have like census data for Hudson that can show certain income groups or whatever, right? And then we have a lot of anecdotal stuff. We don't have, it's really hard to get. It'd be
I think
kind
there's a
of-
way you could do it off Zillow. Can you look back historically of rents on Zillow?
You can some, I think a lot of apartments around here like haven't been listed on there.
Right.
So a lot of them have been like.
But you can use that for an average or something like that,
And we can also probably honestly ask 30 people,
right?
like, like how you rent increase, how much, or like where'd you move?
Right.
That's one of the things we're doing with like the comprehensive plan. I'm trying to do a focus group right now, people who like have been displaced or close to, and just, there's so many people.
I wanted to make a registry, but nobody thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I could just.
Or not enough people thought it was a good idea.
Nobody knew, yeah, like, well, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know, I talked to Dustin about this, because he's like,
That's his thing.
that's his thing. And he was saying there's no way to get like an actual number, you can just kind of provide a array of data
Mhm.
and you can get the general sense, but you can't get a number. And it's also like, it's tricky because some people's situations so fluid, it's like, we know a lot of people who moved out, came back for a little bit, moved back, they're sharing with someone, like,
Right.
but. So I guess, I'm sorry,
Completely unrelated, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say, if there's something we're gonna vote on,
We should
can we
do it
move
for-
that up, because
Yeah.
Rebecca's gonna leave and then we can go back.
that's a great, thank you.
Nothing.
So yeah, we'll just real quick, the thing to possibly vote on would be, I know we're getting closer to actually getting contact with Baker Green County about their donation. Because they had sent a letter to Rebecca that they would donate $500, and then we couldn't get in touch with them. I think it's 500, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so if we can just vote to accept the funds.
I make a motion to accept the funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. Okay, back to this. So let's just, so here's all the ideas that were thrown out by everybody. Also Teresa, who's a fair housing officer, we have a pitch for some funding for fair housing. Let me know if you want to talk through any of these, have any questions.
I thought the lawn sign idea was done. Maybe I was,
Well, I think Dominic was like also advocating for it. I think
oh,
he's
okay,
involved with,
gotcha.
yeah.
So is this, the amount is for the lawn signs and for the forum?
Yeah, I think the 1,600 is maybe a high estimate of run events a little. We just did the comprehensive plan event, that was,
That's a one-time event?
yeah,
Oh. I see what I mean.
What are the signs going to be advertising? Just the fair housing month? or
yeah. I think also Teresa and I had a conversation about like if we wanted to, it's in April. If we want to attach some more stuff to it about learning more about rental rates or whatever, we can figure that out.
I mean, I just personally don't like the whole thing that we have in this country where it's like, oh, it's National Poetry Month. Oh, it's Mother's Month or whatever. It's like, why?
One of your big poetry, okay.
Well, yeah. But,
Yeah.
but like, so to me, I don't really get the point of being like, it's Fair Housing Month. I mean, it's just to be about visibility. Well, right, so if the goal is to like make more people aware that there is such a thing as a fair housing officer and a fair housing office and like what they do, I feel like there's a better way to do it than just like lawn signs and you know what I mean? Like there's maybe something that could be more meaningful.
Mhm,
Well, I think part of it is this tenants forum.
mhm.
Yeah.
If you saw that, that's a good part.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Design.
like attaching some kind of action with it, you know?
I guess what I would say is like maybe do like 2 tenants forums in a year, you know, and no long signs. Or like a couple of signs somewhere more like, I don't know, like visibly,
Uh-huh.
like permanent sign somewhere.
Hmm.
That's, you know,
Mhm.
I don't know how effective that would be, because then it would be just something that's there that people see, but they don't see.
With the fair house, those signs include the phone number for the fair housing officer?
they
That
better,
seems like that would be very valuable,
that could be.
right?
Yeah.
That could be.
That seems like an actual good use of a long sign that people are seeing all day. Cause signs don't have a lot of effect in one shot. It's like you pass it every day. And then your landlord says your rent is going up 700%. And you say, oh, it's too bad, what a fair housing, I pass that sign every day. Like, and then you can say, oh, when you look at the next time, you see the phone number.
That's a good
And
point.
it's like somebody to call. So
That's a good point.
I think that could be really valuable in that way.
Yeah, I guess I just wonder what happens to lawn signs, like, if they're just like everywhere, I mean, if they're left there, do people leave them there, or like?
Depends on where they are. Some of them last a long time there and some of them get taken down right away, it seems like, depending on
Yeah.
where they get placed.
I don't know, yeah.
So I think like,
But if that's, oh, sorry. I just think if that's coming from the fair housing officer, then it seems like at a certain level, respecting
Mhm.
their opinion is worthwhile for us to.
Actually, we should ask them about that. Could they make an opinion on that or explain to it,
I think the
particularly,
idea didn't come from the fair housing officer.
right, but they may not have considered the idea that you just have given, which Nick just added to with the phone number. That might be
Yeah.
way more effective.
I think Teresa's like very open to
Sure.
the format
Okay.
information. I think she's just like, she needs a little money to get a little bit more
Sure.
publicity.
Got
I
it.
think that's her.
That's great. Publicizing the fair housing officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm in support of that.
So I guess I think, let me know what you think best for using our time. I think today's kind of run through and give general ideas for things, then we can like hash it out a little bit more online about specific amounts over the next couple of weeks and then come back in August. But if you guys have a different way you want to conduct things. Correct,
So the next one I think is really good.
okay. Yeah, so that would be some help before we get the grants. We need some funding to spend to do the
Mhm.
inspections and stuff,
Mhm.
put that to the budget.
Oh, I was gonna say it's not a lot of money, but now I get it.
I also spell my own.
I get it. Okay.
But yeah, that's just like before we do the grant to. Um.
So that would be, a private building inspector?
Yes,
Okay,
this way. The city's not, you know, so you don't have funds for something, they're
Yeah.
not, we're not in line. for.
right. I would actually wonder, because I've experienced a discrepancy. Well, I don't know, because Hudson proper doesn't have any building inspectors, private building inspectors, I know, they're all from other places. I've experienced a significant discrepancy between when building inspectors have to estimate prices to when a contractor in Hudson who understands the market here gives prices, it's often much different. I'm wondering if there could be a contractor in town who could be highlighted to do that work. Because that's one of the big issues with the last run, right? Is that like went through and said, okay, we do these repairs, we get the grant, we do this, and then it came back to going to bid. It was like, whoa, that's a big
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, I think it was just noticing things, like
Right.
new perspectives. And
They're
then-
very good at that. They're very good at picking up all the little things that need to be fixed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think last time we didn't have enough of a code perspective, there's a lot of like really. The building inspector, the original one was very honed into like the grant rules and not so much like what also does the city need to. You know, because the
It
building.
have to happen if this
Yeah.
work is going on,
Yeah.
right?
I learned so much about window types and bathrooms.
Oh,
and electrical outlet cups and. And then we had, these were the last meetings, just some discussion about different policy ideas. I think one that's come up from several people about a lot was putting some funding into having Crest Crystal work on some suggestions for EDs or, zoning
Yep.
stuff. I was looking at the ZBA, there's been a lot of variances recently for EDUs, I think.
Did they go through pretty easily?
I didn't go to the meeting, but I
Hmm.
know from the past,
Okay,
yeah.
You know, so we'll make them hybrid.
And then,
oh, really?
It's
the tenant representation one, I wish I had some more specific info on costs or amounts, but, legal aid had given me a quote of 20,000 for the county. So I think if that's pitched in a little bit, that would help. Perhaps, and this is again speculation, I don't have exactly things nailed down from different attorneys, but. So those are some of the ideas we put out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the legal aid one is huge.
We could also, we can. So one of my hesitations is, I think 2 years ago, we did a lot of things with like studies and plans, and we did a lot of good work. I think our like focus on maybe perhaps a little too broad a couple years ago in terms of like implementing, executing things. I think we still have some stuff, so we have like the vacancy law or some other things, like we have the data, we have the info. I think it's just a matter of like focus of getting things done.
Yeah, so can we get focused?
I'm gonna let you know, I've got only so much time in the day. So I think some of it's also, yeah, like picking what are our I guess my point is, we can't just say like everything, because we need to have some focus in terms of both funding, but also like human power.
Right.
Of what's our most important things to get done, and what's sequence.
Well, we talked about that last year, scaling back on this, and then I don't want to just pick a random number, but maybe we can think about maybe 3 projects. Maybe one would be intensive and moderate and low, that way they can get done. And of course, we would need to help. That would probably help,
I like Greg.
Yeah. if that works for you.
Yeah.
That way, and then it'll be kind of standing in as if you grow, it can grow.
So these things, obviously, so we had like this small budget line item, small budget contingency, it was $10,000. All the things listed here add up to more than 10,000. So we could trim it back to 10,000 and kind of get to that 133 end of year number.
Mhm.
Or it's kind of showing like that project line, like if we put in that 10,000 additional, we could do 20,000 for this line, and we could pick a bunch of these items and make up the 20,000. I think that would still keep us in a good spot, and then look at really this year, big focus is revenue. And so that means next year we could do a bigger, like pre-development funding. Because I think the rhythm, when I talk to a lot of the small housing trust funds, their rhythm is 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, they're spending $10,000-$20,000 on small projects. And then year 5, they put 100,000 into Habitat for a new construction. Then it's 4 years of small amounts of helping out rental assistance. And then year 5 is like a big thing. I think that's the rhythm that a lot of them have, because they just don't have, you don't have millions coming in, like we're not in Pittsburgh, so.
And that answers questions that I think we got at the last meeting about how we're doing our budget and how it's different than other organizations or
Well, can I just?
in the corporate world, that, that's not a typical
Yeah,
process, but it makes total sense from the perspective of an organization or a board that was founded in a very different way of having this seed funding and then building up, spending on a big thing when you have the ability, and then
yeah.
building for a few more years.
Where is it at to talk about like, more, what's it called, mortgage recording fee as being part of revenue for the trust fund or things like that? Because like when you just said, like, we're not Pittsburgh, but our houses cost like 50 times what they cost in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
So like, but it
There's
seems.
as many houses being sold in Hudson right now, as in all Pittsburgh also, it seems like, yeah.
Yeah. So like in terms of tying, you know, I don't know, making like some sort of equitable balance of like all of that. I wonder where that's at. Where's that at?
Okay, me.
No, I mean, I think there's a conversation, like, again, going back to focus, I think, like, I think we originally, a couple of years ago, we like had this, like, revenue subcommittee, and look at all these different things, and I think at the end of the day, like, we're all in a million different, I mean, you guys are all in a million different boards. And so I think like I think you guys all did a great job of getting grants this year. That's really exciting. I think in terms of like the policy piece, I think there has to be a conversation this year with the BA council about like what's kind of the vision. And I think we have some ideas about that. And I think that'll be one of our big things to work on in 2020, like the next end of 2024 and through 2025 is, you know, what are some of those options? You know, we just got our first cannabis dispensary, like how's that affect revenue for the city? And, you know, we're getting a lot more information about short-term rental and lodging tax over the next few months and
Is
so
that revenue going somewhere specific?
Which
Cannabis or part of that revenue?
we get 4% directly to the city off the top.
But that hasn't been allocated for anything specifically.
No. I'm not sure, you know, we're gonna see. I don't even know how often we get paid. Could be quarterly, could be half,
Right.
or annual, or who knows? But think of it this way, for every $1 million of business, we get $40,000 on the top.
Is that gross or net $1 million? Nice.
so I think some of these things, I think that was gonna be a while before we like understand.
Go with that?
I think it's gonna be a while before we understand how much and how often
Exactly,
that comes to the
yeah,
city.
definitely.
But I
I'm
think,
not gonna ask Rudy how often, I mean, he might not know actually.
yeah,
I don't know if it passes through anybody. I'm not even sure if that happens. But then, of course, we get part of the regular sales tax as well.
yeah. I know you
And
guys
all
are.
altogether paying 12% beyond cost, tax.
But I'll be in touch.
Sorry,
with,
Rebecca.
like, follow up.
Yeah.
Thank you. So then the last things discussed, is that are kind of related. So I guess like, I don't know, how do you guys want to proceed about this, Pete?
What?
Like kind of this table of, do you want me to, like, we can talk about it via email of like, yes, you like this, no, you don't like this, and kind of give a refined.
Yeah, look at that before. We did it before,
Yeah.
let's do that.
So then the last few things before we go, one of them for the CD, I want to get a little guidance from you guys. It expires mid-August.
You don't even know how I feel.
I
Flip it, I mean, we gotta flip.
Or should be between 9,000 and 10,000 by the time it's done.
If we don't need that money right now, let's do it again.
I think
Yeah.
we could safely start a new one for 225,000. That'll expire in March because just based on everything, we'd have enough to pay stuff and my salary expense wouldn't hit until you know, so. So we could do 250, but just to be safe, I think we should do 225. Perhaps we sponsor for it.
Yeah,
Yep, you did.
vote on that next time.
Yep.
But no, you're saying we need to do it.
Yeah.
I won't.
Can we get
Well,
her back, can we get her on the phone? No?
No, I don't think so. Oh, that's, okay, well, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, worst case scenario, it sits for a couple of weeks, right? And then the end of August, it puts into a new one. Right, that's how CU work.
When does it expire?
August 10th.
Oh.
So if it's end of August, and you start the new one.
Wait,
Oh, yeah, you could,
if,
yeah, you don't have to necessarily, I don't know the bank is, but you don't have to necessarily roll it
Yeah,
into something else with a, no,
just that's the,
what are the rules for our committee say that makes up a quorum?
we got 6 members because Ally hasn't officially resigned yet, so we need 4.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking, if she had resigned.
Yeah,
Who should submit a resignation? You or?
HCPI.
I some,
Yeah.
did you tell them their contact?
Yeah. So I think it'll be okay for It's like a 2-week difference we're looking at.
Okay,
And then the last thing, so part of what we have to do is, figure out our request to the city. Also, so that last piece, F, is the revenue piece. So I showed the city of Hudson's contributions from 22 to 24. And our philanthropic donations, which I think we shouldn't rely on that for our budget.
right,
But we can be optimistic that it will increase next
Yeah.
year. So I put, I think, a low revenue goal on there. And some other places want to kind of pursue some funding from. And again, we don't need to figure this out now, but just,
It's good to know.
yeah,
Okay.
I know you have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you like to not discuss that part as much,
All right.
because you're coming council president.
Oh.
Okay, it's 6:31. Anything else you guys want to talk about or discuss?
I don't think so.
Was this useful?
That's,
Yeah, always. Yeah, thank you.
Public, any questions or comments?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Good night, everybody.